Game 2 of the NBA Finals very much goes the way of the OKC Thunder, and the game was played their way. What did they do better? Can the Pacers recover? How will it look in games 3 and 4 as the series shifts to Indy? We'll get to it all today on a crossover Locked On Pacers and Locked On Thunder.
You are Locked On NBA Crossover, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's up, everybody? Another Locked On crossover. We're trudging on through the NBA Finals, our third crossover in a week. Rylan Stiles is here from Locked On Thunder. I'm Tony East of Locked On Pacers. It's a 1-1 series, an epic start in OKC. The Thunder will now try to steal one in Indy as the series shifts to Indianapolis starting on Wednesday. Tyrese Haliburton heroics, thing of the past. The Thunder dominated Game 2 of the series, as you well know, because it's been a full day since, and we're now together to break down how it happened. That OKC defense, wow. The Pacers bench, yikes. Can the Thunder keep this up like they have against other teams, or will the Pacers respond like they have in every game since March? Two teams that love to not lose twice in a row. How will inertia sort itself out? Rylan, I have the first tab on our discussion today. Thunder even up the series by playing their way, and what I mean by that is this game kind of felt like what I thought their blueprint would be in the series. Their defense cuts off a lot of the stuff the Pacers are good at, and it allows them to score easily. Did you kind of feel the same way about that game?
Yeah, I thought that the game 2 was a much better showing for OKC, obviously, but more consistent. I mean, they truly stuck to their identity and who they were. Defensively, they were swarming. They caused Indiana to look out of sorts at times and really force them into difficult shots. And the Pacers are great at making tough shots, but you have to at least make them work for it, which OKC did. And they were able to play faster off of the stops that they stacked up, which allowed them to pull away from Indiana, which has been the theme of this postseason, of this regular season. This has been who the Thunder have been since October, and the Thunder really thrived playing faster against Indiana, getting stops, and making shots. I mean, like, part of it was just simply shot making. I mean, I know it's kind of elementary to point that out, but the Thunder generated good shot qualities, and you had Wiggins and Caruso knock them down. Whereas in game 1, your offense was just, Shea, Lou Dort, and I Heart putbacks. Like, that was your whole offense. And in game 2, it was much more fluid, and they attacked a lot better offensively, which coupled with a really good defensive effort.
Yeah, I thought all that was certainly true. The flow was more there. I mean, the famous stat in Indiana is now that Alex Caruso has more 20-point games than any Pacer in the playoffs, which is just completely wild. Or in the playoffs, in the finals, which is just completely wild. The thing that continues to stand out to me that I want to kind of pick your brain on, the Pacers stylistically have always wanted to be a great paint team. Not always just that because of scoring in the paint, but playing from the paint now. They call it paint to great. Every time Tyrese Haliburton has a game like game 2, he says, I got to get deeper in the paint. And they can't. 34 points in the paint in both games this series. That's 2 points away from their lowest of the playoffs or regular season, both 32 for them. And obviously the Thunder are very good at this. One of the Pacers' worst paint games the regular season was against OKC. I can tell you the boring answer of, like, their individual defenders are awesome, but, like, what do the Thunder do so well to keep teams out of the paint? And what strategies or teams have had success kind of cracking that? Because the Pacers could really use it as the series keeps going.
Yeah, the Thunder have taken the style of taking away the paint against every team for the last 2 years, of just clogging the lane and swarming to the paint once the ball gets inside. And so I think that with the Thunder, you typically see NBA defenses either try to take away the three-point line or the painted area. And the Thunder have understood that the three-point line in and of itself is very volatile. Like whether you have a contest out there or not, if you just let these guys shoot wide open threes, they're susceptible to going in and out because that's the way the ball bounces and that's the way basketball works. Whereas the paint is the highly efficient shot that if you let guys into the paint with ease, then not only are you letting out the most efficient shot in basketball with layups and dunks and high leverage floaters, but you're leaving yourself open to kickouts and great looks from beyond the arc. So the Thunder for the last 2 years have prioritized getting into the paint. And one way that they are able to do it is by disguising their defense. And we typically talk about this in football a lot, but it happens in basketball too, where the paint can look open for a moment, but the second the ball leaves your hand for an entry pass into the post, you have SGA leaping behind somebody's back to tap it out. You have Cason Wallace streaking down from the break to get into the paint and to swarm at the ball and swat at the ball, and you just all of a sudden turn to the basket and you're turning into traffic. And the Thunder are really good at whenever they're facing post-ups, and Pascal Siakam has been a guy that could thrive in post-ups, whenever they have a guy on his back at the catch point, and the second he receives the ball, you know he's going to have to turn to the basket or give the ball right back to the guard. So whenever you can anticipate where he's going to turn and make sure you have an additional body there, that's where the Thunder have gotten teams into trouble. I think that if you can find a way to get into the paint with 2 feet with your lead ball handler and then spray it out efficiently to the corners, that's where you've been able to see some success happen against Oklahoma City. But the dirty little secret is there's a very few guys, and Haliburton is one of them, but there's very few guys talented enough to navigate through that traffic, touch the paint, and make the pass, because there's so many different layers to that onion against this Thunder defense. First of all, you've got to get past these elite defenders who have elite lateral quickness and elite footwork that can stop you and hinder you from getting where you want to go. You have to make it through the pass. The pass to the corner has to make it through just 50 arms in the passing lanes and very great anticipatory off-ball defenders. And then you have to make the shot once you receive that corner pass from beyond the arc. So there's a lot that goes into it. But the Thunder have certainly prioritized the paint. They prioritized entry passes. And then it comes down to, well, if you can't throw the entry pass to the post, the only other way to get there is by dribbling there. And if you put the ball on the deck too much against this Thunder team, they have 50 million cookie monsters to take the ball away. So what do you do?
Yeah, that's the two things you said in there that have stood out the most to me as issues is Haliburton, in theory, fits the bill of a guy who can hit that pass, because that's something I've said is, even though the Thunder are giving up that weak side corner, how many guys can actually make that skip pass? And not only make it, but like, for it to actually be threatening, it's got to be on time, on target. If not, they'll just be able to recover in time anyway. But he hasn't been able to get into the paint enough. And a lot of times when he does, he's burping up a floater, and that's good. Like, his self-creating a floater is good, but it's not creating enough of the good shots. The other guys haven't been able to make the pass or haven't been able to make the play in the paint, and that's why the Thunder are so good. And the second part of it that I think has struck me in this series is just the individual defenders make it so hard, right? You mentioned their lateral quickness. They have so many guys who can wall off the ball handler that they can't get in just naturally via a couple dribble moves, even against some of the lesser defenders, to break down the defense and just spray it out and keep someone else getting in there. Like, it's been so hard to break that first line and get them in rotation, which is what the Pacers have been so good at in the playoffs, right? There's that clip from game 2 of Haliburton telling to Siakam, keep stealing, I'll get you the ball. And like, that's what they hope. That was great in game 1. Like, it's hard to do that against the Thunder. They clog up those entry pass lanes. Like, it just hasn't been there. And I think that's been a big part of taking away the heart of the Pacers and what the Thunder deserve a lot of credit for, because that's their heart. It's their defense clogging up a place that everybody wants to get and make it so they're going to lose by jump shots or lose, by whatever, extremely crisp interior passing or just something different, because the Pacers haven't looked themselves. And I think the Thunder playing that way is why the series is even now.
Yeah, and I think another thing that they do defensively is their screen navigation is like, if you bring somebody to the ball, first of all, there's no one to bring to the ball that is a bad defender or a negative defender who's on the court. I mean, outside of the Wiggins minutes where you would like a Wiggins switch defensively, with no offense to Wiggins, but he's clearly the worst defender on the floor in the lineups that he's with. But, there's no mismatch to hunt. And so all you're doing is bringing an additional defender to the ball for a team that is notorious for getting over screens and never dying on them. And then whoever the ball handler is now has to play in traffic. And if he can make that swing pass to the slipper from the screen, either you live with the 3-point shot that you get, or that slight hesitation lets them recover and fly back out because the Thunder are so comfortable, even switching guards onto bigs, including Siakam and Turner, to where you just never can find footing in terms of advantages. Like, if you were to script up a perfect game plan, like if you were saying, regardless of the Thunder, this is going to work, this is what they should do, what is it? Like, what would you want them to try to do? When you close your eyes in Indiana and envision a perfect game 3 where they win and take a 2-1 series lead, what do you envision them exploiting with this Thunder defense? It's very tough to have the answer even right now, just hypothetically talking about it, much less in the moment.
17 threes again? It's probably
it's just a barrage of threes.
They've got guys who can do it.
They do.
So
and that's why I don't think it'll be a short series.
What else did the Thunder do better? Where else can the Pacers can improve? And where are Rylan and I looking at key battleground points for games 3 and 4? All that's coming up here on Locked On Pacers and Locked On Thunder. Before we get to any of that, we got to talk about the great folks over at DoorDash. NBA fans, you know what time it is. Playoff season. It's the finals. Big performances, even bigger awards, and DoorDash is bringing the heat with a slam dunk deal for DashPass members during the NBA playoffs. It's called They Swoosh, You Score. Anytime a player drops 50 or more points in a playoff game, DashPass members score a free 3-piece crispy tenders combo from Wingstop the very next day. Just place an order of $20 or more. Use the code Wingstop50 at checkout. Bam, that combo is yours. Crispy, delicious, totally free. And that offer is valid noon to midnight the day after the game. What's your go-to move after an epic game? If it's ordering wings, that's the way to do it because you can get some more free food. Ever looked at your delivery fees and thought there's got to be a better way? Well, DashPass is that way. You get $0 delivery fee. So here's the play. Sign up for DashPass and unlock this and more exclusive deals all season long. When any player scores 50+ in a playoff game, DashPass members can grab a free 3-piece crispy tenders combo from Wingstop the next day with a $20 plus order and code Wingstop50. That's DashPass your door to more savings, more flavor, and more ways to win. Terms apply. We're back here on Locked On Pacers and Locked On Thunder. Thanks for rocking with us and making us your first listen today and every single day. Locked On Cavs, Rylan should be everybody's second listen, I think, today, because Darius Garland's having surgery. And he's going to miss the start of next season. Oof. That's a long absence. Those toes can really throw you off. Locked On Grizzlies as well. Zach Edey's out for a while for you Western Conference Thunder listeners. Ooh, that's quite the ankle sprain, Mr. Zach Edey. Okay, we've gotten off the beaten path. Rylan, it's not just as simple as they cut off the paint. They did that in the first game too. Where else did you see the Thunder bloom and evolve, whether that was offensively, other stuff on defense I didn't touch on, or anything else that led to their very destructive and impressive game 2 win?
Yeah, I thought defensively they closed out harder at the 3-point line, just a touch harder, which made life harder on Indiana to shake free. But other than that, like the defense was great in game 1 as well as game 2. So that didn't really change as much. I think that offensively it starts with how much force that they played with after stops. That was a lot better. And then also their just overall half-court offense, which has been a laborsome effort for a large chunk of this postseason, was really good in game 2. I mean, they started their actions earlier. They screened higher. They screened more efficiently. They altered how they were screening. They didn't just slip everything or ghost everything. They actually set a screen and created a downhill advantage for SGA and for J-Dub. And then, the make or miss element of it is just like you got the threes from Wiggins and Caruso. And when you get the threes from Wiggins and Caruso, plus have an A+ Shea game, plus have a great defensive game, you're gonna beat whoever's in front of you, and so that's kind of one that you just tip your cap a little bit if you're Indiana and move on, understanding that you've done your job to get this 1-1. But I thought that the Thunder also improved in terms of their rotation. I mean, they never played the super small lineup. They always had a center on the floor, and then they tried to go double big against Thomas Bryant, and it looked like it gave him some. It looked like it gave him a little bit of fits, a little bit. It's a little micro dosing of double bigs, Tony.
Yeah, it's hard to tell the effect of, like in game 1, Hartenstein had a good plus minus, but it was like all against Bryant. When he went against real groups, it wasn't as good. I kind of have the same questions about double big now, but like if that's when they're going to do it, it's going to work. Like you got to have a better answer if you're the Pacers. I thought the biggest thing you said, and I briefly touched on this in my own show yesterday, but only for like 2 seconds because it was obviously Pacers focused. Setting up the screen point higher for Shea was a huge change because he just got a little bit more space and speed going in towards the paint or towards the rim. And because he's such like a snaky player, and that word sounds like an insult, and I don't mean it like that at all. I know you know what I'm saying. He's so slithery, like when he can just stop and pull up or keep going, it's so hard to defend him in those moments. And there he went. Whoop, whoop, shot here, shot there.
Just the simple math of it, like the numbers of, okay, it starts 5-on-5, but then you screen Shea's initial defender higher, and he gets past that defender. Then you have a guy waiting for him at the nail, but he slithers past that defender. Now, all of a sudden, you've wiped away 2 of the 5 guys from Indiana, and now they're playing on their heels, and they're trying to scramble. And then inevitably, like whenever you open yourself up to having to rotate that early in a possession and that often in a possession, you leave something and someone open. And it just so happened that Caruso and Wiggins came through. It also so happened that like Shea hit a lot of tough shots. Like I know that Ben Mathurin's not the guy that you'd hope is defending Shea on every possession, but Ben Mathurin competed his butt off. And there's a couple buckets there where Ben Mathurin could not have played better defense, and the shot just went in. So it was that kind of night from SGA, and I thought that SGA really improved as a playmaker. It was never bad in game one. I don't want to come off in that way. I thought that Shea did more than enough to try to get the Thunder a win in game one, but it just felt like game two, he was more in rhythm as an offensive player. He let the game come to him a bit more. He didn't have as many, Shea, I mean, I understand that you're the guy, you can take that shot. You have the liberty to do so, but really, you're going to take that shot then? He didn't have many of those possessions, and I thought that he continuously put his guys in spots to have success. He had a ton of potential assists that could have been an even greater output for him in that category, and we know what he did as a scorer. So I thought overall the Thunder just had a way better game from the coaching staff, way better game from the offense, and then the defense was the defense, and the defense was never the problem in this series.
I think I'd pick up the defense point higher there for the Pacers if they keep that ball screen up there from two players, the nail help guy or the guy defending the screener. Just try to get him to get off the ball quicker, even if you're playing 4-on-3. Like, is that worse than Shea just coming at you during a series that he's scored 72 points in 2 games? I don't know, but I'd like to find out. Right?
Agree. I think that you should do whatever it takes, especially at home, especially in games 3 and 4, to get the ball to Shea's hands. And, it's similar to what we said in the series preview. If you do that effectively and you get the ball out of Shea's hands on the road against a raucous environment for a Thunder team that has not shot the ball well in the postseason, period, but has not shot the ball well in the postseason on the road especially, and if Lou Dort goes 5 for 7 and Wiggins goes 4 for 8 and Caruso goes 3 for 6 from 3, well, whatever. Like, you weren't going to win that game, and that's how it goes. In all likelihood, though, if you're playing the odds and you're playing the probabilities, if you get the ball out of Shea's hands, those guys aren't going to be hitting shots on the road, and you're going to get more stops than if you played it straight up.
Yeah, that's how I would try to do it as the Pacers. That's obviously easier said than done. And part of what they've had success with in the playoffs is like, all right, Mitchell and Shea, go crazy. No one else is going to go crazy. And that strategy always is scary because these stars can just be singularly so efficient that it doesn't matter. And that's what's happened at times in these playoffs. And then you hope that they're just so worn down by the end, they're not as effective on one end or the other or both. I don't know how they'll change things, but he was just so in control, right? Such a dictating the pace and everything. I think the Pacers have to try to make him be more reactive to what they're doing, even at the expense of some little efficiency things. All right, the Pacers side of this. Besides that they just can't get in the paint, my God. Rylan, Tyrese Haliburton just has to be better than this. And I think in the fourth quarter there was some, that's exciting. After 7 shots across the first 3 quarters of game 2, just 4 assists. They've tried to play the 4-on-4 game when he's guarded away from the play by Dort. They've tried this and that. The key is make sure he's moving on and off the ball, get him the ball on the move, set him screens to make it so he's already got space on the catch because Lou Dort is giving him fits. I mean, is he the best player Lou Dort has just singularly, really bothered? Does he do this to everybody? Is this the torture chamber in a nutshell? Because, it's obvious that he has the moment of the series at the top 10 to 15 play in NBA history. But, I mean, he's not scoring at that level at all, and they need him to be better, not only because, him scoring more helps them be in the game, but when he's playing at his best, everyone else is better. They have more open shots, and he hasn't been able to get that way.
Yeah, I mean, this is what Lou does. This is what Lou's built a career on. I mean, you go back to how he competed against James Harden as a rookie in the bubble all the way through, what he did to Jamal Murray, what he did to Luka Doncic in last postseason. Luka Doncic is a otherworldly player. And you go back and look at that box score. I'm not going to say it wasn't a good box score from Luka, but by Luka standards, if you're judging him against who he is as a player, that was not a great banner postseason series in round 2 last year. This is what Lou does. He shaves off of what you typically expect from the other team's number 1. And it's also been a team effort from Oklahoma City, a concerted effort to get guys out of their rhythm and of their routine. I mean, Anthony Edwards is not who he was for the regular season against the Thunder. Jamal Murray was not who he was and has been in the past against the Thunder. John Morant only played a couple games, but John Morant wasn't who he was against the Thunder except for 1 half. So, Tyrese Haliburton's had a moment. He hasn't had a game yet against Oklahoma City. And I totally agree with you that ideally, again, if you're going to close your eyes and dream something up, you would dream up getting Haliburton involved more off the ball, letting somebody else bring the ball up the floor and then letting him shake free off ball and then receive the ball in a position to attack either off the catch, getting to the rim, or just launching a 3 if you shake your defender with some pin down screens. However, then you open yourself up to your non-table setter, like your non-best ball handler and passer, having the ball for an extended stretch against this swarming Thunder defense.
Right.
That's also not a great outcome. And to me, I get it. You guys watch the Pacers through a different lens, and even these games, like, we're both watching the same game, but we watch it through a different lens. I didn't come away with the Haliburton has to do more thing. I came away with, like, he was taking what the defense gave him,
Yes.
and what they gave him was nothing. And so it's like, would it make you feel better if he took 6 more shots that had a shot quality of -10 and just were terrible shots? And if they went in, obviously you feel better. But if they go out, would you be saying Haliburton was a ball hog? Like, I think that it's a little bit of just not taking it for what it is, and that's the Thunder are forcing other people to beat them as they have all postseason. It was the same thing with Anthony Edwards, who I thought had a brilliant playmaking and processing series against OKC, but a lackluster scoring one because the Thunder didn't let him score, and they haven't let him get clean shots. Same with Haliburton through 2 games so far, and this tracks throughout the regular season too. Of any team that Haliburton played 2 or more times this season, he's had his lowest shots per game against OKC, and then in the postseason, if this is his lowest mark through the first 2 games of a series since Cleveland, and if this holds, it'll be his second lowest playoff mark in field goal attempts per game, only behind that Cleveland series where he had 8 field goal games, which didn't matter because it was such a short series and a blowout series. So I just think that, like, I get it. You want your head of the snake and a guy who's brought you here at the storybook situation to have those takeover moments, but again, they're not there to have. So do you just want him to take bad shots? And maybe that's the answer. Maybe the answer is like, hey, you know what? Our best outcome is our best player taking a quote unquote bad shot and seeing if he can hit it.
I have this bit sometimes with other people on Media Row. The game after Haliburton has a night where everybody says, be more aggressive. And even if he does and plays well, like, he'll have one shot where he drives and gets blocked. And I'm like, there he is, more aggressive. This is what everybody says, right? Like, and I know I'm being tongue in cheek, but yeah, I agree with you. They're giving him nothing. And that's why they're initiating with other guys and why they've had success with their forwards and other guards. Like if he's going to be the star that wins them this series, though, he's got to find a way, right? He just does. Yeah. And we'll talk about that and plenty more to close out this crossover. But before we do, we got to talk about Monarch Money. Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That is where Monarch Money comes in. It's your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. It's not just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center where you can track all your accounts, investments, and spending all in one place. So you stop just managing your money and start building wealth. They have so many surprising insights. You realize how much you're spending on specific categories of things. Now you can budget smarter and save more. Instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch to check your finances, track your spending, and even plan long-term goals. Managing money with your partner is smoother than ever. You can track shared and personal accounts, set goals, and stay on the same page without the stress. So take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com. Code LOCKEDONNBA for half off of your first year. Back here on Locked On Pacers and Locked On Thunder. Thanks for making us your first listen today and every single day. KD, Locked On Suns, is he available? Locked On Bucks with the latest on Giannis. The Spurs seem to be at the center of all this somehow. Locked On Spurs. It's that time of the offseason. Once the finals are over, free agency stuff. for everybody but us, Rylan.
Yeah.
But the new rules, as soon as the finals are over, here it goes. Siakam re-signed real early last year. I mean, all these teams are circling the wagons, as they say. Alas, we don't care about that. We're talking about games here on Locked On Pacers and Locked On Thunder because they're still playing. Yeah, look, I think that Haliburton just takeover mode isn't going to be there. I think it's on the Pacers just as much as him, though, to mitigate that. It's not going to be easy in any way, but I mean, some stars have had better games than the one he just had, and I'll be very curious where that shakes out because Siakam's had more moments where it feels like he can take over because he can punish Smalls when the switch comes at the right time. They do a good job of making it hard for him to get the ball in those moments, but yeah, they've got to try to find a way to do that because without him, the rest of their team has looked poor. Did you expect look, I know that both these teams pride themselves on their depth, and it was a story every series they played all the way to get here that they had more depth than their opponent throughout the playoffs. Did you expect the bench minutes to be this lopsided in favor of OKC?
I didn't. I didn't expect it to be this lopsided. I thought that the Thunder would have a little bit of an edge just because of the nature of the Thunder's, role players. All due respect to Thomas Bryant and company, it's a little different having the production that they had to help Indiana get here against this Thunder defense versus who they played in the East. Whereas, the Thunder's bench is more reliant on, make or miss stuff where it's like Wiggins can do that. Like Wiggins can make these shots where you rightfully at home in Indiana are like, how in the world did he do that? It's unbelievable. That's like that's just luck, right? Like, and you can feel that way because of who he is. But he puts himself in position to make these step back threes and the spin move against Siakam. It's just like that nature of the variance of these archetype of players. I thought lended itself to OKC, but not by this margin.
Caruso's obviously the best singular bench player, I think, for either team in this series. But I just did a whole long thing after Pacers Knicks about how these Siakam plus bench groups were like so significant in that series. They've got nothing from those groups. Like Toppin was pretty good in game 1. McConnell was good in game 2. Mathurin's had some nice moments, but they just haven't had enough success from those groups in total. I think Daigneault does a good job of never having too many bench guys on the floor. The Pacers have gotten themselves kind of drowned a few times in 4 or even 5-man bench group lineups in this series, but they just need more from everybody there. And it's been so interesting that this series, the Pacers have their strengths and they can use them. It's not like they can't play fast against the Thunder. It's not like they don't play their depth, but those two things have been just like massive legs up against all these other teams throughout the playoffs. And it's like, oh, the Thunder don't care if it's a fast game. Oh, they have lots of depth too. I found that those two things combined with the paint defense have made it so a lot of what the Pacers style has been cut off. And I've said a lot throughout the playoffs, the way for the Pacers to win after their losses is to be themselves. And I still believe that they have to be themselves better than they were in game 2. But that's what makes the Thunder such a unique challenge for them is they are good and comfortable in a lot of the environments that the Pacers like to thrive in. I think you've seen that throughout the series so far. And so that's where this goes next. Creativity. Where can the adjustments come? This is where you make the big bucks, get on the clipboard, figure something out because this is what the Steve Nash quote is that's been cited a million times that Rick Carlisle keeps saying, it never feels like you're going to win again after you lose. It feels like you'll never lose again after you win in the playoffs. And the Pacers right now are on the bad side of that, but I think they've got to do some solution hunting just because it's been tougher for them to kind of be themselves in the series than any other series, even though it's 1-1. Like what I'm saying sounds worse than it is. I just think they need to be solution finding in a big way right now.
Yeah, this is where it's going to be like the storyline heading into the series of Mark versus Rick. Like Rick has an opportunity here in game 3 to do something a little bit unorthodox, which is what he's known for. What he's been built on is by being unorthodox and just throwing something wild at Shea and making Shea. You're never going to make a player like Shea become a non-factor in a game because there's just too many ways for him to score and too many positions he can put you in to force you to let him score. And as Rick said after game 2, like mark him down for 34 points before they even get on the plane to come to Indiana. But how can you limit Shea or force Shea to play, again, not passively, but do what they're doing to Haliburton? Because both Haliburton and Shea have that element in them of, I'm just going to make the right play. Yes, they both get gaudy stats and they both are the engine of the team, but they also make the right play over and over and over again, no matter how their teammates are playing. And so if you can just put Shea in a crowd, he's going to trust his teammates regardless of the outcome of those shots from his teammates, to where that helps you stack possessions where the best player on the floor is not taking the shot to try to put points on the board. And that's ultimately a win for Indiana. So that's one big adjustment. I think another one is one that you hit on of just figuring out the bench lineups better, like Mark has done. Like Mark puts, the reason why the Thunder, I think, I've had the bench advantage so far is because of always staggering, like Shea's in there or J-Dub's in there, Hartenstein's in there or Chet's in there in game 2. And then you're working around, hey, Caruso is not some bench player, right? In the typical stain of a bench player that you think of. Casey Wallace is a literal starter in this series. So then you're working with Wiggins or you're working with Kenrich Williams, who's like the ultimate veteran on this team alongside Caruso. Can Rick find lineups that, hey, there is no more games here in a few days. Like this is the time to be playing guys 45 minutes or more in a game. And can you earlier in the game not go to the all bench lineups at all in the NBA Finals unless it's a blowout? I think would be huge for him in that sense. And then for the Thunder, it's always hard to make the adjustments after you win. One adjustment that I think that you can make, though, is ensuring that you still are allowing Isaiah Hartenstein to impact this game, whether it be from a double big standpoint or from a single big standpoint as a playmaker. Because the thing about the Thunder is they have a lot of guys who are really good secondary passers and connective passers. They don't have a lot of guys who are very good passers at creating advantages. And Hartenstein creates advantages with his pass. And so whether you play double big lineups a lot or not, you've got to find a way for Hartenstein to get more minutes, I think.
Chet was better. Wiggins was better. Caruso was better. Toppin was worse. Siakam was worse. The Pacers need to be better in Game 3. We're still a day away. Rylan and I will be back tomorrow with more on this series after the third day of major practices, this time in Gamebridge Fieldhouse on Tuesday. Rylan, where can the people find you, assuming they're listening on the Locked On Pacers feed?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at Rylan_Stiles and Locked On Thunder. Tony, let the Thunder faithful know how to get in touch with you.
Wherever you're listening to Locked On Thunder, you can find Locked On Pacers, and at Tony R. East on Twitter is the place to go. Rylan and I will be back after Game 3 together, individually along the way. Big game coming. Among the biggest in the history of both of these franchises, unless you don't count the history of the faithful Sonics. I finally hung my Sonic shirt up, so I have some.
Nobody counts that. Wait for a couple years with expansion, and we'll start to count it again.
I wouldn't count it either. Smart move by OKC to not count it. What we decide doesn't matter. The NBA has decided that it does. Thank you all so much for listening. We'll see you very soon.